the four coherent answers. It is for this reason that people like Carey and Charlie C.T. Studd and Henry Martin and others, when I go to India several times a year, hum dharti ke aadmi hai. Hum dharti ke aadmi hai. I'm a person of the soil. I was born and raised in India. India has a fascinating philosophy. There's a song that you may have heard from Mother India, Duniya mein hum aaye hain to jeena hi padega, jeevan hai agar zahar hai to peena hi padega, which literally means if I've come into this world, I must live. If living means drinking poison, I must drink it. The fatalism that is present in many of the young, they are hungering for answers. It is not so much the robust attitude of smothering somebody, but the privilege of telling them that Jesus Christ offers his sacrifice for you so that you can have life with purpose. Mahatma Gandhi, who carried a New Testament all his life, made this comment, I like their Christ, I don't like their Christian, because the Christians had victimized him in so many ways. We as Christians need to apologize to the world for the way we have sometimes betrayed the trust. But we do not go to present ourselves. We go to present Christ. If you had the cure for cancer, you would not be sitting at home. You'd be telling the world with cancer where the cure is. In Jesus, you find the answers to the deepest questions of the soul, and you present him as the answer. I'll leave that with you. I'll leave you with 2 footnotes. Why Jesus? I've responded in 1 chapter to the very question you've raised, and also Jesus among other gods. You will see the coherence of his answers. All religions claim exclusivity. I believe in Jesus. You see the reasons for that exclusivity, because he describes my condition, provides for the malady, explains suffering, teaches me what the cross is about, and rose again from the dead to give me eternal life. That is what I present to the Indian people, and I hope you will follow those teachings too.
Hi, my name's Corey. I'm actually a big fan of yours, so been listening to you for a while now. And I'm an artist and an aspiring author, and one of the things that I've noticed that in this culture, especially in here, we see a lot of movies and a lot of literature and a lot of TV shows promoting philosophical beliefs that are, that if not just wrong, are actually kind of harmful to people. So I would just ask, what is the Christian perspective on art? Is there a way to counter some of these more harmful lies that are being presented as truth?
I'll do a brief answer, and Vince will tell you what we are doing with the whole world of art in the Institute. It's amazing, these steps we've taken. I think it was Dostoevsky who said, first, art imitates life, then life imitates art, and finally life seems to find the very reason for its existence in the arts. If that happens, it's a sorry end. Art is a glorious expression. My daughter, wherever she's just come back from Paris, my oldest daughter, Sarah. She could spend every day in a museum of this world, examining every piece of art she sees. She loves it. I'm more into the performing arts than the fine arts, but certainly I enjoy the best of music and the best of what the artistic world does. See, worship brought art into it, music. And if you go to Rome and anywhere, you see the glorious expression of the artists from the Renaissance and how they glorified God with their work. For the Christian in his or her life, the parameter is very simple. Worship the Lord in the beauty of holiness. Holiness is not about, beauty is not a boundaryless thing. Beauty has to have boundaries, and that boundary is the difference between the sacred and the profane. If one chooses to do profane art, it is really not art, it is the exalting of the profane. And it may be that the artist has the intention to show the horror of profanity through the process of the art, and it can happen and it can be done. I know a Hollywood music writer who said the hardest part of his life was to watch profane acts taking place on stage and for him to compose the music of it. So I'd be standing in the wings watching this and really not wanting to see it because I said, I'm a family man, I didn't want to cross some lines. But he would see as best as he could and invariably would introduce some horror music in the process because what was going on had some horrific ramifications too. So I say to you, the gift that God has given to you, if you do it as a Christian, do it in the beauty of holiness. As the world delves into art, we have to appreciate the fact that there are many parameters and possibilities, but we have to keep our convictions with the sacred and let the world see what beauty can do to the heart when it has the parameters of the sacred within it. That would be my simple advice in terms of the art. But I'm going to have Vince tell you about what RZIM is doing with the arts now.
Great. I'm a philosopher rather than an artist, so I'll give you a slightly philosophical answer, but I'll work my way around to the art. My wife and I, my wife's standing just next to you actually, Joe, we had the privilege of viewing Michelangelo's David in Florence. It didn't initially feel like a privilege as we waited in the cold rain for 2 hours to see that statue, nor did it seem like a privilege as we had a marriage discussion about whether we should continue to wait in the rain. In the end, a few married people in the room, in the end we did a marriage compromise. Joe wanted to stay and I wanted to go, and so we stayed. But this is my point. We had seen that statue in documentaries, in postcards. That's why I thought, let's leave. We've already seen it many times. But when we saw it in person, we knew something. We didn't just experience something, but through that experience, we knew something about the beauty of that piece of artwork that we couldn't know through just hearing friends tell us about it or through the postcards or through the documentaries. In philosophy, we would call that non-propositional knowledge, but it basically means it's experiential knowledge. It's knowledge that you can only know in full by truly experiencing it. And I think knowledge of God is like that as well. I sometimes think about thinkers, feelers, and doers. You meet different people in life. Some people want to know the evidence. Show me the evidence. Some people want to know if this is true to my experience. Other people want to know, they're doers. Does this work? Is this going to make a difference in my marriage? Is this going to help me to sleep at night? You know what? All three of those are good reasons to initially be interested in God and to seek God. And ultimately, God wants us to love Him with our whole selves, including each of those arenas. But the arts are so important because they sometimes allow us a direct route to truth that doesn't always have to go through philosophizing. And that, I think, is very important. Sometimes people are in a place, I was in a place in my college years where I had erected philosophical barriers to God. If I'm honest, because I wanted to be my own God. Nietzsche says, if there were gods, how could I bear not to be a god? That was a line that I resonated with. But the arts were a way where I couldn't help but recognize the beauty and the transcendence that was apparent in the world. And that pointed to me to God in a time of my life where it would have been very difficult for me to purely philosophize myself towards Him. That's why as a ministry we are so committed to the arts. Great friend of ours, Emmanuel Lambert, is in the audience tonight, who's an award-winning rapper. And let's hear it for Manny. And our assistant director, Sean Hart, at the Zacharias Institute, is someone who spent a lot of his youth in a rap culture where he was far from God. And he said, man, I wish I had someone like Manny at that time. because Christian artists at that time largely had just withdrawn from that culture. But what that meant was not just withdrawing from the art, but withdrawing from the people who were interested in the art, including my friend Sean. So I think we need to do good art, we need to do faithful art, but we need to engage in these cultures, because not engaging is not just not engaging in the culture of art, but it's not engaging in the people who love that type of art, and we want to love every single person. I hope that's helpful.
Very much so, sir. Thank you.
Next question.
Hi, my name is Jackson. I'm a student at Penn, freshman. And my question is, if we as finite beings spend our whole life searching, we basically can only scratch the surface of all the information in the world. So how do we find truth in that pursuit?
Very, very great question. And by the way, one more thing I should say, our new Institute of Apologetics in Atlanta has an art gallery in there, and where we hope to do some wonderful displays of fine artists. That has already begun. You go on our website and you'll find it. And sir, your question on so much to know. You know, it's interesting. Charles Hartshorne, the famous philosopher, in his 100th birthday, was asked what he wanted to say to the world as he reached that stage. He said, everything that needs to be said has been said. The only thing that needs to be decided is what to deny. What are you going to deny? Malcolm Muggeridge had a famous line, all new news is old news happening to new people. All new news is old news happening to new people. Your point is well taken. There is so much that there is to be known, so much of wisdom and knowledge that you can accumulate. How do you really arrive at even any conclusions, and where do you get off? There is a difference between comprehensive knowledge and meaningful knowledge. You cannot be a genius in all of the disciplines. You simply can't. In fact, when Stephen Hawking, in his book, made the comment that philosophy is dead, the theologians didn't have to respond. The chairman of the philosophy department at Cambridge responded. And he made this incredible comment. He said, the oracular Professor Hawking needs to know that he has not kept up with our discipline as much as we have with his. It's not true that you can grab this in single vision of the sciences. See, you go back across history. Start off with the rationalists in the 1400s. You moved after that to the empiricists, or the metaphysicians as they were. From that you came on to the existentialists. From the existentialists you came to the postmodernists. Each one of them, in grabbing the finger of an epistemological approach, thought they had grabbed all of reality. So if you talk to Descartes, it was, rationalism. If you talk to Hume, it was empiricism. If you talk to Camus or Sartre, it was existentialism. You talk to Derrida, it is postmodernism. The mistake they made is in grabbing the finger of one discipline, they thought they had grabbed onto the fist of reality. All of these disciplines have their places. And so we have these specializations, with each one of them having their value. That's why I think the Christian faith has such beauty to it. We want a faith that is rationally tenable. We want a faith that is existentially relevant. We want a faith that is empirically also verifiable. But also in postmodernism, we want the community of believers in the process. So make the distinction between comprehensive knowledge and meaningful knowledge. And when you find that meaningful knowledge, excuse me, you will find that there are 4 components to meaning. 4. Wonder, that sense of enchantment, truth, love, and security. Wonder, truth, love, and security. You watch a little child, wonder. But then all of a sudden they get old and they find out that the fairy tale is merely fantastic. It's not fantastically true, it's merely fantastic. Then you come to see the Gospels and the place of the miracle and the incarnation. You see that which is fantastically true. You enjoy the love of God and love in your relationship. You enjoy security of life beyond the grave. Wonder, truth, love, and security. You can find that meaningfully without even having a comprehensive knowledge of all that there is to be known. So I leave that with you.
Just to add real quick that I think that's a brilliant question. Sometimes I ask people to draw a circle which represents all the knowledge that they have, and then draw a larger circle which represents the totality of things to be known. And when you see just what a small percentage it is, you think, why should I trust anything that I believe? Look at the history of science, and you see that the vast majority of scientific theories that we now consider to be true, or that were once considered to be true, now are considered to be false. It's a great question. We just walk around assuming that, of course, we can know things and we can know lots of things. Maybe that's a much harder question than we think. Take a naturalistic perspective. If it's the case that the sole guiding principle of human development is naturalistic evolution, then we as beings are created to be conducive for survival, not to be conducive for attaining truth. Those are two different things. It might be good for my survival if I've been badly injured to think that I'm going to make a recovery, but it might not be true. Those are two different things, survival and truth. And from a naturalistic, atheistic perspective, to think that our brains are wired to give us the truth is like stepping on a scale and thinking it's going to tell you the time. A scale is not intended to tell you the time. That's not what its purpose is. And from a naturalistic evolutionary perspective, we as beings are not intended to produce truth. We're intended only to produce survival. So I think you've asked a brilliant question, and I think as you burrow down deeper into it, we're left with a really frustrating dilemma. How can we know anything? Maybe in your question is a pointer to the fact that if we are to know anything, small finite beings that we are, maybe it has to be because there is truth that has been revealed to us by someone who is much more knowledgeable than we are, who doesn't just know that small percentage of the circle, but who knows and who in fact is the totality of all knowledge. So it's a great question, and I think it points to a religion that includes revelation of one who is true.
What would be the one goal that I think that could accomplish something for your life here tonight? There was a music group called the Moody Blues that said this: why do we never get an answer when we're knocking at the door with 1,000 million questions about hate and death and war? Because when we stop and look around us, there's nothing that we need in a world of persecution that is whirling in its greed. Why do we never get an answer when we're knocking on the door? There's the artist for you. And then he says this: I'm looking for a miracle in my life. I'm looking for someone to change my life. I was 17 years old, on a bed of suicide in Delhi. I'd given up, completely given up. When a person brought a Bible into my hospital room, I didn't own a Bible. I'd never opened the Bible. And he turned it to John chapter 14. My body was dehydrated because of the poison that I had taken. I couldn't lift my hand to hold the Bible. I needed my mother to hold it for me. And then she read it to me. And to you students, I want you to know I was a young student then. And I'm on the verge of death. And she reads the words of Jesus to Thomas: because I live, you also shall live. Because I live, you also shall live. And I prayed this simple prayer: Jesus, I really don't know who you are. I really don't even know what all this means. But if you are the Lord who gives life, the life I never had, come into this life and change me. I need to be changed. Not only what I do, but what I want to do. 5 days after that, the doctor came and he looked at me and he said, Beta, which means son, I have given you back your life, but I cannot make you want to live. I have given you back your life, but I cannot make you want to live. I said, Doctor, that's been taken care of by somebody other than you. who has given me what I wanted to be. What can I ask you to do? Your hospitality has been incredible, and Aaron, your team's fabulous. We are honored. I'm really honored every time. Before I come onto the platform, I say, what on earth am I doing here? What on earth am I doing here? There's only one answer. I'm here to tell you that in the person of Jesus Christ, take away all your prejudices, go back home, start reading the Gospel of John, and with a simple prayer, just ask the Lord Jesus, if he is who he claims to be, to reveal himself to you. If we at our office can be of any help, and they more can, we will be glad to help you. May you find him to be the way, the truth, and the life. Because he lives, you also can live. God bless
you. You've been watching Let My People Think with Dr. Ravi Zacharias. We're grateful for your prayers and financial support. If you'd like to know more about this ministry or would like to donate to our efforts, you can call us at 1-800-448-6766 or visit us online at www.rzim.org. You can also stay connected to RZIM through Twitter and Facebook. Our mailing address is RZIM, Post Office Box 1820, Roswell, Georgia 30077.
Hi everyone, it's Abdu Murray with Ravi Zacharias International Ministries, and I'm excited to tell you about what just happened at our third annual Remind Conference. We had hundreds of youth and young adults who were there to learn how to have their minds renewed by the power of the gospel. It's called the Remind Conference because the Apostle Paul tells us in chapter 12, verse 2 of Romans, he says that we are to be transformed by the renewal of our minds. And sadly in our culture today, the picture people get of Christianity is that people are transformed by the removal of their minds. Well, we imparted, me and the speaking team, imparted to hundreds of people how they can have their minds renewed by the power of the gospel and the use of their reason as well. People often think, well, we lose hope for the younger generation. Well, based on the number of people who came to the Remind Conference and the number of questions and the depth of their questions, I have a tremendous hope and an optimism for the next generation.
What is our message? Our message is very clear. For God so loved the world that he gave his only begotten Son, that whosoever believes in him should not perish but have eternal life. The fact of the matter is we know what the mission is, we know what the method is, and we know what our message is. Without you, we can't do it. We will love people. We will value and treasure the gospel. And we will remind them it's the only way to change life and to find redemption and hope and build a secure home for the future. RZIM will keep its lights on in a dark world. What hope a little light can give.
Reboot is a day dedicated to answering the tough questions that high school students have. So if you are between the ages of 12 to 18, this is a day for you. We'll be tackling the tough questions about science and faith. You know, this idea